Hi everyone, welcome to the another episode of Maps and Metaphors. Again, this is my third day here, and I have a very special guest on this episode. I'm near the north, not very far from IQD, and I met a wonderful gentleman here who is a special guest. So I will stop and ask him to introduce himself.
Yeah, hi there. My name is Vidar, and I work for the Olympic and Sports Association in Iceland, and really love my job. And it's a privilege to meet tourists because it gives us another side of our country. Because we, though have been here all our lives, we don't really recognize everything around us, which others clearly do. And I think the nature in Iceland is quite unique because for us who've been here all this time, we don't notice how unique it is because we've been here all this time and we've seen it all around us all those years we've been here. And for others to come here and to explain for us how unique it really is something to learn from. Because I've been in many other countries and I don't see the same nature elsewhere because I see more of people and houses and cars and etc. where I'm in foreign countries. But here we can go miles and miles and miles without seeing cars and houses and etc. So it's the wild nature out there which we have, and it's a privilege to have it and nice to be in this nature. And we often, me and my wife, go in the nature as far as we can just to be out of there by ourselves with our cameras and the wild nature, the birds and the animals around us, and that's really, really nice. Where even we can't be reached by phone. We're just in the middle of the nature. And then we perhaps by a lake where we see the birds on the lake and we can hear the birds. We can hear the other birds back from the lake in the nature behind us, and that's the only sound we can hear. If we just stay there and we don't talk to each other, we just listen to the nature and kind of get inside of nature, then we can recognize how beautiful it really is and how much privilege it is.
Well, I think that there couldn't have been a better introduction to Iceland, and I totally can agree with your points, because in the current times, what we need is to be more in nature, and we see around the world more and more inclination of people towards, different social media, phones, and typical life, which a lot of times make us, stressful. And in that way, like if you say that you are away from the phone and you don't even realize you have a phone. So apparently it sounded like that, and just be into the nature and enjoy every moment of it. I think that's sort of a mantra which we as a generation or even the future generations should actually be focused on living and appreciating the life as much as we can, and yeah, so I think that's really important and very good to know. Further, I would like to know, like, how do locals live here? As in, like, do you see at any point like you guys getting bored, or at any point like missing any of the things which are, like typical crazy city-like styles, and let's say for London or New York or even Amsterdam. You have traveled a lot of the world, as you were mentioning. How do you see it so different, and the locals? How do they see, and do they miss it? Do they find a balance? How is it exactly? I'm very curious to know.
Well, it's I think Iceland is think in so many ways, and their experience will make them different kind of persons. It depends on what the experience is. When you go abroad, then some of us get more interested in those areas, and I can understand that, because when you've been maybe in a small village out in the East Fjords or the North Coast somewhere far away from big cities, and even our little city Reykjavik, the capital, is big for us who live here out in the country. So So I think some of us will go abroad and even live there for their lives because they think this is too small for them and they want more action and more surroundings of people and buildings and cars. But I think really big part of the nation think it's really good to be here because we often talk about this unique we have, about this nature. We could drive for hours without seeing no town or no village, and that's the sort of privilege. To talk a little bit more about how I, at least, and I know many others, will like to go into the nature, is that I kind of like fishing. And I go in the mountains where we have many lakes and there's a trout in the lakes. And when I'm standing there with the lake fishing and listening to the nature, I turn off my phone. There is a connection there, internet connection, but I turn it off because I don't like to be called when I'm in this unique situation. And just standing there listening to the fish when it's showing its head a little bit up of the lake and listening to the birds, it's more than a privilege. It's like you're a big part of the nature. You're in the nature really, and that's something which you don't have in many other places. You cannot do that in so many other places. Of course, a lot of countries do have, but that's different for us. When I try to find this kind of nature in other kind of lands and countries, then I can't find it. It's beautiful, and I can see many other beautiful countries and beautiful nature, but still it isn't the nature in Iceland. So I would like to be here because this is the nature I know, and I can be happy wherever I go, and with no threats or anything. We don't have polar bears here, and we don't have any kind of bears or any dangerous creatures, so we can really walk here wherever we want to in nature without being frightened of anything like that. No lions or tigers or nothing. So that's a privilege too. To can walk free with our kids like you are doing now.
Yeah.
So that's something to look for and to be happy with because you can really relax. And when you have this kind of nature and kind of land to live in where you can relax almost wherever you are, that's a big privilege.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I totally agree with your points because this country is like one of a kind. I think I've been to so many places as well, and I haven't found like that's why we keep coming back. And I think this is my third time in Iceland, and we couldn't appreciate more of the kind of magic it has. It almost feels like the new Earth is born. I keep saying that, and I'm saying it again. But looking at so many things happening around the world with climate change and stuff like that. Do you have a message for rest of the people like I'm sure like every country is different, like there is things countries like tropical, they have tropical weather, they have temperate weather, so everything cannot be made like Iceland, but like what efforts could be made by different people, because you have seen different countries as well. What do you think could be made better from individuals, at an individual level? Definitely thinking of climate change and similar other things where we could be as similar to Iceland, more in terms of having a stressless life, and also such a beautiful nature. How can we appreciate it? Do you have any message for?
It's a big question, really. Yeah. And maybe I'm not the right one to answer it, but of course I have opinions on it as anyone else. And I think it's always a question of what is your dream in your life? What is it you want to do? What makes you happy? And I think we can always say that I like to go to Spain or Tenerife or being there in the sun in 30 degrees in Celsius, and it's really beautiful because we don't often have that kind of heat here. It goes over 20 degrees though in Akureyri area, which is rarely goes to in Reykjavik area because of the southwesterly wind. So we have a good weather here during the summer, but we have a hard winter, and that is something we have to accept. We have to learn to live with it, and that's something. When you have done that since you were born, it's not a problem. Then it's just the things you learn to live with and learn how to act and how to dress yourself from the cold, etc. So that's not a problem. But it's always a question of how do you learn on life? What is it that you expect? Where do you want to be? Do you want to be in a warmer area? Do you want to be in in bigger cities, etc., etc. So it's always a question you have to ask yourself about what it is you need, what it is you want, what it is that interests you, etc. And I think Iceland has, through the years, have learned to live in our island with great happiness. For others, it's hard to explain because you really have to come here to get in connection with our nature and the people living here, because we can't really explain that in brochures how it is to be in Iceland. And to be sure of, I'm not working for the tourism, and I'm not working in that area. But this summer we will probably have more tourists here than never before. And that's something people is looking for. And we can understand what it is when we try to put ourselves in their steps and in their thoughts about our country. We cannot understand it if we don't try to do that, because just watching it from our side, then it's difficult for us to say this is the best country to be in, because anywhere which you are, in every country you are, you can find all the pluses and all the greatness in every country. So that is something up to single individual, every person to find out where is the best way to be and best place to be.
Well, I think that's totally a fair point. Like, yeah, totally agree. The things that everyone wants to come here, and it's going to be flooded up, especially after the corona. The things are getting better every year, so more and more people want to be here, and yeah, that's a part of life. Fair enough. And so I would like to conclude it, but just before that, I have one last question. We talked about harsh winters, but I'm a little bit curious around the volcanoes. I haven't had a chance to spot a live volcano. I don't know if it is good or bad for me. Some say it could be dangerous. So as a local, what are your thoughts on living in a country that has so many volcanoes? And and have you experienced one? Probably yes. I would like to hear just a few lines, and then we can conclude this.
Yeah, it's a good question, really, and yeah, I've experienced many eruptions from volcanoes, because this is something we learn to live with. Most of them, when they go, are not threatening, really. If we know how to behave and know where to be, and not doing anything stupid near them, then it's not dangerous, really. We call it really a tourism volcano eruption, because tourists like to come and see, and I can understand that, because it's a beautiful sight, and seeing that something, those energy and all that happens is something you can't really imagine. No, there's nowhere near it when you see it in TV. If you are there by yourself, maybe 100 meters away from, it's something to something memorable, which you will never forget where you live, and so it's not a question of being afraid of being in a volcano land like Iceland. Definitely is, because through the years or through the ages, it has not been killing almost anyone. Well, some animals have died because of it, and maybe a few persons too. So the casualties really rare and small. So it's not really to be afraid of. Definitely not. And it's just something to learn to live with. And I think it's great to have it. And it's something to advertise Iceland or something. So it's just greatness, just greatness.
Thanks. I definitely think because it's so unique to have volcanoes in your country, which is not so not so common at every second place. So yeah, and as it says, as they say, like it's the land of ice and fire. So that's a good balance, Like I don't know that a lot of vegetables grow from the heat of volcano, and there are a lot of farms from in the south of Iceland.
I would like to tell you about this heat coming from the earth. Because this is a volcano island, then we have a lot of heat in the earth in so many places in Iceland, and we try to use this heat for our greenhouses, for our vegetables, and even for the heat for our houses somewhere in the country. And that's really beautiful. And like in Lake Mývatn, and it's also in Laugarvatn, which is short way from Reykjavik area in the south coast. Then they can use this heat coming from the earth by baking their bread. They usually use brown bread, but they put in the earth, maybe 1 meter down, and then the day after they go get it, and it's fully baked. So that's a kind of way which our forefathers did a long time ago, and that's a kind of, they use it now for the tourism mostly. We don't do that really anymore, unless there are maybe few farmers which still do it because it's in their nature to do it. And but this is something that you have to know and learn from the earth, because sometimes the heat is too much and sometimes it's not too much, and so the farmers learn how to do it and how to use it. But being a part of this for our greenhouses and have the heat from the earth is something that will cost us much less, because the electricity would other way have to come from our waterfalls or something, which we can make electricity from. But we have around, I think, 3 or 4, maybe more, power stations which we make working from the heat coming from the earth because of the volcano island. So
I guess that's geothermal energy.
yeah.
I think about when you mentioned about the heat coming from the earth, I did not know exactly about this for the vegetation, but I did read, or probably I watched some documentary way back, I think 1 or 2 years ago, where there was some kind of a wooden structure, and there was a sort of a oven which was getting its heat from the remains of the animals, and the meat, and similar food items would be kept inside that wooden structure under that heat, which is not directly coming in, but with some sort of a smoke. I don't know if I'm wrong. So if you can throw some light on that, because I'm not very clear on that wooden structure, sort of an oven, and the natural heat that's coming from the earth. Are they the two different things, or maybe I'm confused about it? So please throw some light on it.
These are two different things. When we're using the heat coming from the earth, then we can use it like the big power station up in Lake Mývatn. It's made from the heat coming from the earth totally. And that's a big power we get from there. But when you probably are talking about the smoked meat, the other thing you were talking about, it's made in old cabins or something which you make out from turf, really. And we can always do it in more unique, more newer way in houses, but we think Icelanders, that's not as good. It's coming from the when we make it from the turf, then we get it more naturally, and the smoke is made from something that I'm not sure I can explain for you. It's really from the sheep or the cows, the shit really, and they dry it. And when they dry it, they put fire on it, and it gets really, really, really much smoke. And they close the smoke inside, and the meat is hanging in there, or the fish. They do it with the trout and the salmon as well. And then we get this nice taste, which comes from the shit row. And
at the end, it's just a smoke.
It's nothing else that comes near to the meat or the fish. So it's really traditional Icelandic food. Like a smoked lamb is probably on the dishes for 60-70% of Icelanders on Christmas Day. It really is. And the smoked trout and salmon is really, really, really good. And that is something Icelanders like to have on the brown bread we talked about before.
Yeah. You did mention it.
Yeah. So this is the difference between what you were asking for. So the smoke for the meat does not come from the earth. It's a complete difference. And although it sounds bad talking about the cows or the sheep's shit, really, then this is nothing to be scared of or afraid of. There's no ingredients in it really that is bad for the human's health.
That's interesting because we also have a concept of such kind in India. We use the cows, we call it cow dung, and it's used to burn, like the oven, at least in the villages. And if you are really interested to do it more in a wild way, like some kind of an experience, then we still do it. Otherwise, like yeah. So I can a little bit associate to that. Really an interesting information. Well, thanks a lot for your time and being on this episode. I hope you guys liked it. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye bye.
Thank you.